Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman of the DC camp. Grant your great millstone, back with another video. First and foremost, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai. Once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. I'd like to send salutations out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways. Of course, also mentioning numerous amount of videos everyone puts up, alright, to further push out the truth across 4 corners of this earth, while time and circumstance still permits us to do so. Yeah, this is the copyright disclaimer because I'm going to be using a video and news article, of course. This copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, which I'm doing, news reporting, which I'm also doing, teaching, again, scholarship and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use, fair use, fair use. All right, so here we go. Wouldn't you know it? And there used to be a site, can't find it anymore. It was called White on White Crime, you know. Maybe I'll be able to find it, but that's what it was dedicated to. And here we have another instance. This has been going on evidently for some years, but it's not been reported. But in particular, the last couple of weeks or so, because there was reported sexual assault. You know how them folks are about that. So, yes, in Northern Ireland, and there's a conflict between them and Romanians that live there. Who would have thought, right? So here we go.
Apparently, there's a white-on-white crime going on right now in Northern Ireland. Not a lot of mainstream media outlets have picked this story up, and there are very few people talking about it on social media.
I wonder why.
And this is happening in Northern Ireland, but against Romanians. Watch this clip, we'll come back and discuss.
Foreign-born people are having to flee their homes in Northern Ireland, and people are resorting to putting signs on their doors saying locals live here and putting a Union Jack in their window, hoping that their house won't be petrol bombed or burnt down. I just read a story about a Filipino family who in the middle of the night, masked rioters banged on their doors, broke their windows, and when they found out they were a Filipino family, they said, "It's okay, don't worry, we're not looking for you," and then moved on, and they've now fled their home because they're not taking the risk. This is a pogrom. They were looking for Romanians, but by looking for Romanians, they're just smashing into random people's houses, just hoping that they will find them.
It is quite interesting to learn about the dynamics in Northern Ireland. We just recently covered the story coming out of Northern Ireland, how they're treating black people, how black people and African descendants are not feeling safe in those countries, specifically Ireland. And in recent years, the anti-blackness has risen and people of color don't feel safe in that country. But now it seems like they've also turned on their own people, although they don't see them as their own people. From everything I gathered, they believe that Romanians are not white enough and they're not part of them. So I guess they feel like they don't belong in their community, so they are going to target them. And allegedly, the reason why they're doing this is because of, there was a story recently, 2 Romanians did something to an Irish girl and they were not very happy about that. So they started targeting each and every...
Let's see if we can... I had that saved. Here it is. It says, how a Northern Irish town descended into 3 days of anti-immigrant violence. All right. This is from CBC News. The Northern Irish town of Ballymena erupted with shocking scenes of riots that targeted homes and businesses. All right. After a peaceful protest. But let's go on down here. All right. It says, after 2 teenagers who spoke Romanian were charged with sexually assaulting a local girl. For 3 nights, masked rioters burned homes and vehicles in what Ryan Henderson, Assistant Chief Constable for the Police Service of Northern Ireland, called racist thuggery, pure and simple. All right, leading to multiple arrests and dozens of injuries. The violence follows the arrest of 2 14-year-old boys accused of the attempted oral rape of a teenage girl. Oh. Both of the accused made a court appearance on Monday when they spoke through a Romanian interpreter. All right. Police announced a 3rd arrest related to the case Tuesday. The incident sparked the simmering anti-immigrant sentiment in Ballymena, where nearly 5,000 of the 31,000 residents were born outside of Britain, Ireland, or Northern Ireland. All right. In Northern Ireland's overall population, ethnic or racialized groups make up just 3.4% of Northern Ireland's overall population, compared to Ballymena's 16%. All right, so it's more concentrated there. More than 30 officers were injured after being attacked with firebombs and bricks over 3 nights. And a dozen people in and around Ballymena have been arrested so far. The riots have had a significant effect on immigrants to the town. I have to save my children, said one Bulgarian woman, adding she has lived in Ballymena for nearly 10 years. But after her family home was targeted by rioters, the family plans to leave. How it unfolded. It says the rampage was played out on social media across hundreds of tweets, videos, and images cataloging the days of rioting. CBC's Visual Investigations team has collected and verified footage to show how this small town descended into violence. On Sunday, a day after the alleged attempted rape, a Facebook post circulated in the local community telling people to gather at a local spot known as Ken's Car Park at 7:30 p.m. Monday local time to show their anger. Statement from the father of the child who was sexually assaulted on Saturday, 7th June. As the father of the child who was assaulted at the weekend, I am calling all of the community to come and support my family as we are holding a peaceful protest to show our anger at what cannot and will not be tolerated in this town. We all need to protest our family. We all need to, I guess he meant protect. I'm aware that not all people with different ethnicity are rapists or pedos. There is a place for these people in communities to come forward and stand up to these scum in the community. We don't want everyone getting blamed for this type of action. Well, how nice for him to state that. Because I was just going to say, well, this is one of those instances where, like they came after Jake, these lynch mobs, A peaceful vigil began on Monday night in support of the alleged victim, with Ballymena Deputy Mayor Tyler Hoey expressing support for the demonstrators. But the event quickly devolved, with hundreds swarming the streets, reportedly targeting the homes and businesses connected to foreigners. Before sunset, which would be sometime before 10 p.m., barricades are set ablaze near a church with police nearby. All right, let's roll a little bit of this.
So I don't need to say anything here, guys. Self-explanatory, I think, isn't it? He's following me.
It's buffering on me. What the hell? Hopefully it won't last too much longer, but in any case, let me continue on. All right. It says reports of house burning and evictions coming out of Ulster after sex attacks. All right. Soon after, mass people.
So that's what they thought of the dog.
So see, here's the thing here, oh crap, how they try to downplay and underreport things that involve white on white, so-called white on white crimes. And that's the whole thing. And a lot of us, we're aware, but you got some people out there, you got some jakes like that, all right? Anyway, back again, it says, soon after mass, people can be seen smashing windows of homes near the church, which can be seen in the first video in the below tweet, which reflects the inflammatory rhetoric fueling the riots. All right. Come on. Well, see, this is the thing. You got the scriptures. You got Luke 12:2, and you got Luke 8:17. It's just basically say what's, hidden will be brought to the light. It's not going to stay hidden for long. All right. And people are seeing more and more how the so-called white man operates. All right. And like they say, the least of the flock, paying attention to what's going on over there, not only in the Middle East, but how they conduct themselves worldwide. I'm talking about that least of the flock. I'm talking about the issues. All right. And everybody's seeing them for the fraud that they are. And here, in this example here, you see how beastly they can be too. And like I said, when I read that aforementioned little paragraph there, it just seemed like I was reading, 100 Years of Lynching, or At the Hands of Persons Unknown, one of them books, It's the same pattern. And it may be in those, because this, when I looked it up, I don't know what's going on. Forget this. Anyway, and it's showing, giving you the layout here. Hours attack, barricade fire, gathering point, where he gave that little speech. The father of the supposed victim. All right, I'm just going to put it out like that. Until it's proven otherwise. It says the riots continue for a second night on Tuesday. Clashes between protesters and police begin in the evening with water cannons in use and small burning barricades destroyed by police vehicles. All right. And you have to understand what goes with this is everybody's feeling the pinch. All right, with the economies around the world being in a downslide, and it doesn't take much, but especially when it comes to something like this, Never mind. Yep, little burning vehicle. All right. Another layout. On Wednesday, the Union Jack could be seen in the windows of several homes, as they explained earlier. She did in the video, while he did in the video, while a handwritten sign in one boarded up window read "British household," all presumably in an effort to ward off looters, like they always during the BLM riots, black business owner or whatever have you. Riots continued in the evening. The rioters break house windows.
Have you seen that? Mental, it's... Someone's just put a window through and it's... They've got Union Jacks up in the flag on the window. Fuck's sake. Why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Got one around the window.
It's like, can you ever imagine being on the receiving end of something like this, where you got all the town folk in front of your house or wherever you live, you know, after you, like them old black and white movies where I think it was like Frankenstein or whatever have you, the werewolf, or Jack, whatever. And you got all the townsfolk with pitchforks and torches all coming after you. Imagine that feeling.
Fuck's sake. Wrong window, boys, I know. Fuck's sake. What was that? The windows made of brick? What do you think? VAR, I mean, he sent him off, right? That's wrong. There's red card, that
I'm pretty sure this is probably one of these these areas, Ireland, Britain. I think they have. It's been a while since I looked into it. I didn't think about looking into it, but in fact, yeah, we got the it's Northern Ireland. Maybe I asked it wrong. You just do something like that, you know, motherfuckers are popping off, pop out. When they say owning and using a firearm in Ireland, let's see, citizens information that says if you own or want to own a firearm in Ireland, you must have a firearm certificate. All right, so they are allowed. Okay, according to this, the most common type of firearm is a gun. Okay. However, the following are considered firearms under Irish law and also need a license: crossbows. Oh shit. Spear guns. All air guns with a muzzle velocity speed of over 1 joule, including paintball. Damn. And Garda, however you say that, grant firearm certificates, and they are responsible for supervising firearm use. All right, is it legal to own a firearm in Ireland? Yes, it is legal to own a firearm in Ireland if you are over 16 years of age, have a license known as a firearm certificate, are living in Ireland for at least 6 months. All right. Are competent to use a firearm, keep your firearm securely, are not disqualified from having a firearm. For example, if you are deemed to be of unsound mind or have been sentenced to imprisonment for a firearms or terrorist offense. All right. Okay, so we settle that. I thought it was unusual. Now what's going on with this? Oh crap. Now I done lost my place. Oh boy. Alright. So in any case, that's going to be it. I mean, I'm not going to draw it out anymore. You just have to know the game that these people are playing, you know. They got to highlight everything, the smallest thing that Jake does. And, you know, still under the curses. Alright. So with that, like I said, I was going to try to keep it short. And this is from my usual videos. So I hope whoever views this, of course, has been edified. And until the next video, shalom.